Welcome back, friends, to Build a Lot Acres. In today's episode, we're going to talk about why you need a woodshed to cover your firewood. Stay tuned. So, of course, there's a lot of different ways that you could store your firewood. You could do open stacks. You could do open stacks with a top covering. That top covering could be something as simple as metal panels, could be a tarp, could be plastic sheeting. There's a lot of different things you cover it with. You could also do IBC totes, which are basically the metal cages that people store firewood in, but then you need a big machine to move them, and there's other, things to consider. I actually did do a video where I talk about comparing all these different ways that you could store your firewood and which one I think is best. If you want to see that, please click up above. But for a short cliff note, the number one way, in my opinion, is a woodshed. So I've showcased this woodshed in other videos, and I've showcased me filling it with firewood. And I've had multiple people ask questions about it in comments of those videos. They've asked things like, what's the size of the woodshed? How much wood will it hold? How did you build it? I'm going to answer some of those questions to the best of my ability in this video. But let's get into the reasons why you need a woodshed for your firewood. So the first reason has to be you have a solid roof covering your firewood, which keeps the elements off of it, such as rain, snow, etc. So the next big advantage to having a woodshed is going to be you have something solid to stack against. And that's going to come in handy for a lot of different reasons. When you have open stacks, typically you have nothing to stack the wood against in the back, and you're going to have nothing to stack the wood against on the ends. Therefore, you're going to have to do what they call cribbed ends, which means you have your wood crisscrossed on the ends. But that can take a lot of extra time to get just the right pieces, the right size, the right weight, etc., to build those bookends up so that the rest of your pile doesn't topple over. And no matter how straight you start with your pile, there's a lot of things that can make your pile tipple and topple over time. So if you live in a colder region like I do here in the Northeast, the ground has thaw cycles. As the ground thaws and moves, guess what? The pile of firewood also thaws and moves. So therefore, I would say having something solid to stack against is going to make it a lot quicker. You don't have to take your time like you would in open stacks. You can just throw the wood in, pile it up, set it, forget it kind of a deal. For example, this wood behind me has been here about 3 years and it hasn't toppled over yet. I actually do have a video about why your firewood stacks are toppling over. If you want to see that video, please click up here, but please continue watching this video first and then check that one out. Let's get into the next reason why you need a woodshed for your firewood. And that reason is going to be you have a solid floor structure, which is going to be nice to stack your wood on. You don't have to worry about moisture coming up through the ground. You don't have to worry about those thawing and freezing cycles like you do open stacks. And just like having a solid back and sides are nice, having a solid floor to stack on keeps your wood drier, less likely to topple over, and in my opinion, it's just the way to go. Another big reason I like woodsheds is they don't require special machinery. If you have something like IBC totes, for example, an IBC tote full of unseasoned wood, if it's heavy like oak or certain maples or maybe black locust, you could easily be talking 2,000 pounds for a tote of wood. Usually IBC totes are going to come in either 275 gallons or 330 gallons, which I've talked about in other videos. But one of those totes full of wood, it can easily be 2,000 pounds. So you need a good sized machine to pick that up and transport these totes around. So you're going to either need a pretty good sized tractor like my Coyote NX4510. You might need something like a backhoe or a skid steer with forks. And it's just going to cost more money because now you need a piece of machinery just to move those totes around. So it's a lot more economical, in my opinion, to have a woodshed for most situations than to use IBC totes. Another big reason I like woodsheds is they're very customizable. That means the size, the height, length, width, how deep they are, how you have them constructed. There's a lot of different ways that you could build your woodshed. So I chose to build mine with an airspace in between my horizontal boards. That's going to allow the air and some sun to get through and season that wood just a little bit better. But another reason, like I said, that I like woodsheds is they're very customizable, which is going to lead us into our next point. And that point is going to be woodsheds can be very economical. I know there's probably people thinking you're crazy. It's going to cost me a lot of money to build this. Not necessarily. If you're a frugal person and you're creative, you can come up with ways to use salvaged lumber from old projects. A lot of these boards, you can see these nail holes. These are actually on an old deck of my neighbor's. He gave me these boards for free. He rebuilt his deck. He used new composite decking and vinyl rails. We got rid of all the old wood. And guess what? It was free to me. And it didn't cost me a whole lot of time. I did have to clean the nails, so there was a little bit of labor involved, but you could also use something like wood pallets. There's a lot of creative ways that you can use old free material to build your woodshed, and you don't have to spend a whole lot of money, but you still end up with a nice product at the end of the day. I think the last reason I'm going to discuss is they just look nice on a big country property. It's a nice backdrop. When you're outside, maybe you're having a coffee or a beer or a cold drink or whatever it is, you look out, you see all that heat stored up, and you know that's going to help you in the winter time, heat your home, keep your family nice and warm and comfortable. It's just a great feeling seeing that wood all stacked up in a nice woodshed, knowing that the weather can't get to it, snow and rain can't bother it, and it really feels good. But as I mentioned earlier in the video, let's go over some of the details on my woodshed for those that are curious. So I have said it in other videos, but I'm going to say it again. This woodshed is 32 feet long. It actually used to be 24 feet. Each one of those cubes is 8 feet. So it used to be 3 cubes long, or 24 feet. And then I ended up deciding I wanted it to hold a little bit more wood. So I added a 4th bay on the left side. So now it's a full 8 cords it holds. So now it's a full 32 feet long. The front is about 8 feet high. The back is 6.5 feet high, and it's about 6 feet deep. So if you average all those numbers out and multiply them together and divide it by 128, which is how many cubic feet is in a cord, you're going to come up with 8 full cords of wood, which is what this woodshed will hold. A lot of people use the term face cord, which is traditionally 1/3 of a cord of wood, or the face that you see. I don't like the term face cord because it can vary depending on how long you process your wood. So I use the term full cord. And this woodshed will hold 8 full cords of wood. If you want to learn more about my woodshed, I'm going to put some videos on your screen that you may enjoy and that I recommend. And until next time, have a good one, friends.